Amazon employees stage a die-in during corporate pride event over Matt Walsh's book sales. Now, Matt Walsh's book sales were kind of conservative stuff, calling out the whole transgender movement. They didn't like that. They're having a die-in. That's what we're talking about today. That's what's going on in Seattle. We've got Pride Month. How'd they get a whole month? I mean, Father's Day, 1 day. Mother's Day just gets 1 day. The birth of Christ, Christmas, we get 1 day. But Pride gets a whole month. All right. It is what it is. Anywho, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies. I read the news. Hopefully it's news that you want to hear. So we've got this Pride event, and then we've got this Matt Walsh selling books, writing books, conservative, zooms to the top of the charts because people are concerned and they want to get as much information as they can. And yet about 600 employees out of 1 million something at Amazon said, no, this is hate. This is hate information. We can't have this. So they did a die-in. I've not heard of a die-in. I've heard of a sit-in. I've heard of a love-in. Wasn't that what they called John Lennon and Yoko Ono? I was never a big Yoko Ono fan. I don't think most people were. I think a lot of people weren't John Lennon fans. But, you know, the Beatles and then his independent career. Yeah. I am the walrus. Okay. Some disgruntled American employees at the company's Seattle headquarters staged a so-called die-in protest during a Pride event in response to conservative author Matt Walsh's book sales on the website. Some 30 employees draped themselves in blue, pink, and white transgender pride flags, laid on the ground during the pride flag raising ceremony, and reportedly refused to move. It was as if they were dead. That's going to send the message. I mean, I'm reading the story, right? What were they upset about? What were they upset about? What's the big concern here? So now I'm looking at a tweet from Catherine Long, and she's saying, I'm at Amazon Seattle headquarters where about 30 Amazon employees are staging a die-in over the Pride in protest of the company's continued sale of what they say are transphobic books. So they've got, I don't know, they look like blankets or towels on top of them, and they're lying down, and yeah, they're just not moving. Eventually they did because they had to go back to their jobs at Amazon. So, you know, this die-in was a relatively short-lived event because you can only die in for so long, right? Yeah. How about if you have a hunger strike? You can do that for a long time and still function and do other stuff. A die-in where you got to be, you know, still and look like you're dead. Yeah, that's not going to go. I mean, you got to take a whiz at some point, right? I mean, you get hungry. You need another monster to keep that trajectory of caffeine going in your life. I mean, you can only be dead for so long, and then you got to get up and, you know, show the world what's what. So the motivations behind the Thursday demonstration are books authored by the Daily Wire's Matt Walsh. Okay. Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro. The books are Johnny the Walrus and What is a Woman? ? And journalist Abigail Schreier's Irreversible Damage, the Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters. I've got friends with kids and daughters, and I hear a lot of just weird stuff. And I don't really understand, you know, to do with, hey, it's, you know, okay to do your own thing and yeah, explore all that good stuff. And it feels like it's getting a little nutty, feels like it's getting a little out of hand, and my friends don't know what to do. And they're kind of at their wit's end. And all I can think of is, well, I had some problems with raising 2 boys, but yeah, I didn't have a lot of that stuff. So I'm very thankful there. Neither of my kids ever really questioned any of that stuff. But if you have one that does, man, that would be problematic. I really would have a hard time, you know, working my way through that one as a parent. Well, here's what I think. I just wouldn't go all that well, right? Protesters described both writers' works as transphobic and decried Amazon for selling them. So is Amazon not supposed to sell anything that opposes your opinion? It feels like that's the direction we're headed, right? I don't like that. Don't sell it. Okay. Because, I mean, there's some crazy left-wing stuff in there as well, right? And you don't hear anybody doing a die-in on, whatever. You don't hear that. But, yeah, it's part of Pride Week, I guess. The demonstrators are part of the employee activist group No Hate at Amazon, unless you're Matt Walsh and or Abigail Shrier, and then seems to be okay to hate on them. And according to a transcript of a speech from the event, they believe the brand is spreading a culture of hatred through the sale of transphobic books, promoting and profiting off content that advocates for the abuse of transgender children. Okay, I have not read any of the books written by the authors in question here, but if we looked at this, I don't think they're advocating for the abuse of transgender children. That would be my guess. Haven't read it, so it's like doing a book report and not having read the book, right? You can't really comment. But my guess is they're not promoting the abuse of transgender children. They're just working that in there so that folks who don't really know what's going on is abuse of transgender children. No, we can't have those books on Amazon, clearly, without even really taking a look at it. They went on to describe the flag-raising ceremony as a PR stunt by Amazon, calling it a blatant rainbow washing, while the company sells content that aids and encourages the psychological abuse of transgender children. Okay, those are accusations there. There's a direct line between the hateful transphobic rhetoric that Amazon is profiting from, the unprecedented anti-trans legislation across the United States, and the violent and often deadly physical attacks so many of our community face. Continued the speech. 2021 saw the most murders of transgender people in recorded history. Overwhelmingly, these victims are Black trans women and trans women of color. I don't advocate violence towards anybody, whether they're transgender or whatever gender. So, I think most reasonable people don't in any way, shape, or form. But if there are books out there that, explain a different point of view, you've got to be able to look at all sides. We can't have just one angle, right? The group called Walsh a serial abuser who has openly attacked our coworkers and our customers. Well, what were the attacks? Referring to the fact that his child's book, Johnny the Walrus, an allegory about the dangers of transgenderism, became a #1 bestseller when it was released in April. All right. So it's a #1 bestseller on Amazon. That means people from all walks of life. It's not just one entity of folks buying this book, right? There's probably a massive cross-sector of the population that has bought this book. They're like, all right, what's the deal? I myself am not very well versed on the whole transgender thing because it doesn't really impact me. I don't have anybody in my life that's transgender. It's just not really a thing. And, I look at the numbers and I think, okay, what percentage of the population is this that we're really talking about? It seems like there's other populations that have it way worse and are struggling, and we pay way less attention to them. So, there's that. But it is what it is. Walsh used the publicity from this book to get his book to #1 on Amazon. Well, that's what you do. When you write a book, you're trying to get as many people to read it as possible because you believe in what your book, the message of your book. And if you get it to #1 on Amazon, that's called a home run. You've done your job. Now, if you don't like the book, don't read it, don't buy it, don't promote it. You've got that end of things. Let me repeat that. The #1 book across all of America, top of our charts. And they're upset about it because it reads a message that, in Walsh's own words, this effectively made him the best-selling author in the country, it continued. So we're ragging on Matt Walsh here. Amazon rewarded him for this harassment with enormous sales. Well, you're not rewarding him. This is how this works. If his book is popular, people buy it. It is not Amazon rewarding the guy because he wrote a good book. The general population is saying, hey, the information contained in said book is we want to read that information. Therefore, we're going to snap it up. And Amazon happened to be the seller, right? So there's that-ish. Last summer, at least 2 employees quit their jobs with the Seattle-based brand after it refused to remove Schreier's book from its digital shelves. The kerfuffle came after Amazon stopped selling conservative author Ryan T. Anderson's When Harry Became Sally, responding to the transgender movement, telling Republican lawmakers at the time it would not sell books that frame LGBTQ plus identity as a mental illness. Got a lot of stuff going on with trans, right? How about that whole Dave Chappelle? I mean, he kind of really went that direction, and he addressed a lot of those issues. And that's why I think he's been so popular, is that he brings things up that the rest of us are kind of just thinking and going, all right, yeah, but what about kind of some of the more obvious things out there? And Dave Chappelle brings those up, and a lot of people in the trans community, not huge fans. Like in multiple of his specials, he has said, yep, trans folks and I do not get along, because in most of the content that I see, he kind of calls them out on stuff. And, is it hateful? I don't know. I mean, I can't quite see that. But if I was in a trans person's position, yeah, I mean, I might see it as a little harsh, but I don't think it's I don't think it's hateful. I think it's calling things out for what they are, and you may not like them, but that is kind of how life goes. There's a lot of stuff that goes on out there that I don't agree with, that you don't agree with. We might be on opposite sides. We might be on opposing sides, but we figure out a way to get, I take this information, you take that information. And then at the end of the day, we kind of figure out what's best for everybody. It just doesn't seem like we do that anymore. It's like, here's my opinion, and you need to buy this 100%. Otherwise, you're a piece of crap and you are hateful. It feels like that's the direction we've gone. Like 100% tilt or nothing. And we can't negotiate anything. Nothing can be negotiated out anymore. It's just, all or nothing, all in or all out, living or dead until you're not. And that's what we had going on at Amazon in Seattle. Oh, Amazon. Oh, Seattle. Just always something going on. We are starting to get some good weather here. So I'm going to be posting some stuff on my Instagram. I've kind of decided my Instagram account is going to be showing the cool stuff of Seattle. Yeah, I know. You don't want to see that. But there's some amazing stuff that goes on in Seattle. The die-in, something like that, I probably wouldn't post to my Instagram because I don't really stand behind that. But the cool stuff that Seattle has going on, yeah, I'll post some of that. It's pretty epic for those 2 days a year when we have sunshine. All right, that's it for me. Thanks so much for being here. We'll catch up soon. Talk then. Bye for now.